And Rob Taub, political humorist. Oh, very
supposedly.
Nice. Oh, very nice. Okay, great. The situation in Libya, one of the things they're trying to work out, how does the administration get around this? How does the administration deal with Muammar Gaddafi, who is, by all accounts, kind of just crazy? We've had experience with a no-fly zone from Iraq. We've had, that was an occasion where it had to be, but it was a situation where we were sort of at war with Iraq. We're not at war with Libya, really. I mean, what about this no-fly zone?
Well, I mean, you know, here's the problem, Lauren. I think that you either do it or you don't do it. Mm-hmm. The problem that we've had in Libya, and frankly, maybe you can extend it back to Egypt, is this sort of back and forth that this administration is having with itself. It's, you know, do we or don't we? Do we say something? Do we not say something? Are we disappointed that Gaddafi is still leading? Is it unacceptable what he's doing to the Libyan people? What's going on? This is no way to run a foreign policy. Now, if we're going to do it, let's do it. If we're not going to do it, don't do it. Just say we're not, you know, and for whatever reason you want to say. I mean, a couple of weeks ago it was that Obama couldn't say anything because he didn't want to put the lives of Americans at risk who were there.
Is this just a different management style we're getting with Obama?
Well, it's not a management style. What happened was people, the administration and everybody, pundits alike, thought that Gaddafi would go down a lot faster than he, and he hasn't.
I mean, all of the intelligence on Gaddafi, wouldn't they have anticipated his taking a stance like this?
Yeah, they did. They did expect him to take this stance, but I don't think anybody thought it was going to last this long. And there are repercussions. It's not like we live in a world like reality shows where we come in and go, Gaddafi, you're fired. It would be that, you know, if Donald Trump was running things, gee, it would be so much easier, and we'd send the Kardashians in, and they'd just buy up all the oil, and the world would be wonderful. But it isn't like that. Yeah. And Obama is concerned that the United States is going to look like a bad guy, and we can't afford to have that happen. But does he have to start making a definitive stance soon? Yes.
I mean, you know, the thing about Gaddafi is that, you know, he may be crazy, but he's not stupid. And then
saying the mere threat to American lives is enough to get this country to back off and let us do whatever it is that we seek to do.
Go ahead.
Well, America's always been the free world colossus, as I like to call us, but we continue to behave as if we are. And if you're a liberal, that's somebody that supports change and progress. There's been change in the world for the last 30 years.
But somebody has to lead.
Well, yes, but we cannot behave as if we were what we once were. And we give out too much foreign aid. We're giving more because we don't have that kind of power and we don't have that kind of might. And our military is spread all over the place. We're wasting $2 billion a week in Afghanistan. It's a touchy situation to get involved right now in Libya.
But a lot of times for people in the Middle East, it's not about what you have. It's the perception of how you're going to take a stance. It's, you know, it's like, you know, I'm going to put all my resources into, you know, fighting this. I'm going to, you know, you make a big stand. I mean, the difference between America and a place like in the Middle East is that they respect power. They respect authority. And what the critics are saying is that Obama is not showing either. And
let's not forget Carter attempted a tour de force, and he sent troops in to try and go free the hostages, and unfortunately disaster ensued. Had that gone otherwise, he would have been perceived as a totally different website contributor to my website, www.robtaub.com. Andy from Wisconsin, who always says to me about all of our, the shameless self-promotion, all of our lying down with despots is you sleep with dogs and you get fleas. And we've been supporting despots for a long time. We're in bed with Gaddafi. We have to get out of bed with him, and there are going to be repercussions. And we're not just going to call the bedbug dog and sniff him out. And we're going to have to deal with the good and the bad. And so I do agree that we have to be more demonstrative. I didn't like Jimmy Carter as president. I think he was small. He behaved like a governor. He told the people things like, you know, we've got to turn our thermostats down. He lectured us, promote the greatness of America and instill any confidence. And Obama has to instill some confidence and be more of a leader right now.
Okay, and specifically like no-fly zone, I mean, you know, they're going to debate about that. But I think, you know, the fact that you've got John Kerry coming out there, who's a Democrat, ran for president, who can make these kinds of statements on national TV and say, you know, the no-fly zone, maybe, you know, we could do this and this and this. It doesn't speak well for a president. For one reason, because he has no executive
prospect that this is not an administration with a strategic plan.
I mean...
Well, I'm going to disagree there.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that they do have a strategic plan, and it's always easy. I think our politics right now has just become a poo-pooing contest between both parties. There's no bipartisanism.
And it's so easy to do that, too.
And it is. It's just like he said, she said.
So you're saying that poo-pooing contests are not necessarily the right approach?
No, I
just wanted to say poo-pooing contest. I'm sorry.
Why not?
I'm not exactly sure what it is. I think my dog gets in those every morning with another dog in Central Park. I clean it up. I'm not there to clean up this mess. I'm just here to complain about it.
I mean, the idea is that there are some concrete steps to take in Libya.
Right.
Beyond the rhetoric. But the rhetoric helps in that it gets your people in the Mideast to listen.
And this is a guy who has slaughtered thousands of innocent civilians in Libya. This is a brutal dictator. This is not a run-of-the-mill kind of, leader guy.
Well, then we can get into a whole historical perspective about this. Why didn't, since we know that Gaddafi was behind Lockerbie, do something about him then?
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, why didn't we? I don't know. I mean, but the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of unrest there, and the U.S. has had a history of wanting stability more than wanting sometimes to do the right thing.
That's right.
But there's also that criticism that if you go into a government and try to restructure it because you want them to run their country the way you run your country, that's being elitist. That's being the colossal power. If the government is stable, yeah, they kill a few people, but the government is stable, sometimes you have to keep hands off.
Well, look, on a bipartisan level, America has never installed a good government anywhere. We had problems in Cuba with Batista, and we wanted to keep him there. And we had people earning like a penny a day building Westinghouse refrigerators and bottling Coca-Cola, and then we wondered why the government was toppled. It happens all the time.
You're the liberal. What do you do? I mean, at what point do you come in and say that's wrong and now do it differently? I mean, how do you make that kind of power without seeming like you're trying to be
one of the things that has stunned me, and I was ready to argue with it, is because I hate Facebook so much. Going out for coffee in 15 minutes. Just petted my dog. You have people posting all these fascinating
You hate Facebook?
Well, yes, I do.
We're going to have a serious disagreement.
Really? Okay, but it does.
Do you say things as innocuous as that on your Facebook page, please?
Most people do.
I don't have a dog, but if I did, I might in fact post that I'm going out to walk.
Like,
no,
Facebook.
No, I'm kidding.
Facebook is promoting democracy in many respects, and I think and I think it was 60 Minutes. I've just Time did a whole special on it. I think it's awakening the masses there that suddenly realize, gee, there are elections in America every 4 years where they're not the monster that we perceive them to be.
It's you know what? It's making the earth flatter, to borrow the title from a great book. The world is getting flatter. Mm-hmm. And what that means is and what that really means though is it is a democratization with a small d. If you're giving people access to Facebook and Twitter, what you're seeing is this sort of everybody getting slightly on the same page, a democratization in that sense. But it's funny, in other countries, I read somewhere, in other countries, Twitter is being used to overthrow dictators. And here I'm reading that a girl I used to go to school with doesn't like her new pedicure. So
I've never received any really compelling tweets myself, and I can't understand all the abbreviations.
And we're talking about the Council American Islamic Relations, a group that's actually had apparently some terrorist ties that people accuse of having terrorists. I shouldn't say they have, but they have been accused of it. Right. That they're sponsoring this backlash. This, I think, to me, is going to be where sort of the rubber meets the road in terms of dealing with Islam and dealing with the radicalization. That the Obama administration can't even call terrorism radical Islam. I mean, they really can't. Right. They can't attach the word Islam and to terrorism in the same. But yet, the percentages are so high of the terrorists have been like, 95% have come from Islam.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might even be higher than that. This is hearings and investigation that is a long time in coming. I applaud Congressman King for doing these things. And the reality is, and he has been very careful to say this is not an indictment on Islam. This is not an indictment on our Muslim citizens. This is about the radicalization of a few Islamists who then turn to violence. And that's what really this is about.
I'm Jewish, and I'm always afraid of a religious witch hunt. There was a man named Joseph McCarthy who used to wave a piece of paper and say that he had a list of communists, and it was his laundry list. So I think we're on a really dangerous ground. What I always find curious is Republicans really have no confidence in the government running and administrating anything, and I don't have a lot of confidence in it either, but they do when it comes to certain social and religious aspects, and I don't want the government doing this.
Well, I
don't trust them.
If you...
Here's the complexity. You have what were called no-doc loans. No documentation was required. Somebody could just merely give their Social Security number. A mortgage broker would then do a credit test. If your credit came out good, as let's say, use my son, for example, who's 21 years old and he has a perfect credit score. They would have just said, how much money do you earn? And if he would have said, and lied, $800,000 a year, even though he's in college, they would give you a loan based on that. There was literally no documentation. And what happened was you had people who began getting these interest-only loans. They were making, let's say you netted $4,000 a month, but your mortgage was $4,200 a month. And you had expenses on top of that. That's what was happening. But people weren't paying the principal at the beginning. One day they were told, hey, your mortgage is going from $800 a month to $4,200. They couldn't pay it. Right. They went belly up, and this happened throughout California to entire neighborhoods and blocks of areas. Is that it in a nutshell? I think so.
That is it. The Republican in me would sort of add that this was begun under the Clinton administration, but
Bush did nothing to stop it. This is the poo-pooing contest.
The poo-pooing contest.
Well, fantastic. I want to thank
Rob Taub.
Rob, did I call Robin?
That's. I think you said Ron, but it's www.robtaub.com.
Rob Taub.
Just go to my website and you'll learn more about me.
It's one of those things like you don't want to say the two B's. Rob
Taub,
Ron Taub.
It used to be Robert Taub, but I shortened it just to make the website more sellable.
Okay, great. Well, we're still talking about that. I don't know. I don't own a home, and I wish I did.